My first question to you is that, I mean, if you can kindly elucidate, why and when Uno Minda was formed, and what is your current mission and vision?
Okay, great. So Uno Minda is over a 65-year-old group, started way back in 1958 by Shri S.L. Minda. It started off as an automotive company. The first product 6 decades ago was an ampere meter for two-wheelers. And from that, we've grown into switches, we've grown into several products. And over these last 6 decades, from a small factory run in a garage to today being a global conglomerate with over 72 plants, nearly 2 billion in revenue, and over 24,000 employees, 20 plus product groups. We are now a very large and one of the most respected groups in India today.
Okay, and what is your current
And
mission and
and
vision?
and in terms of the vision of the company is to be a sustainable global organization, which adds value to all its stakeholders, and attains technology leadership and cares for its employees like a family. So we use 5 keywords here. If you've noticed, one is to be a sustainable organization, and this is with all our growth is to ensure that the organization is sustainable. We also would like to go global. Approximately 18% of our revenue comes from overseas sales today, and we would like that to increase to over 35%. We also in whatever we do, we look at all the stakeholders very closely, whether it's suppliers, customers, investors. So we would like to just ensure that we add value to all our 5 different stakeholders. And the whole idea is to do this with technology leadership. So we need to have technology leadership if we want to enable global sales or be a sustainable organization. And actually, I'll also be talking about Create in a while, that actually got started with this vision of attaining technology leadership. And as a value system, we always value our employees, and hence value our employees like family. Yeah. So that's the vision of the company.
Okay, so my next question to you is, as you have clearly witnessed, we all have witnessed in the last 2 years, the industry went through a lot of challenges, especially the automotive and the automobile industry. There was production slump due to shortage of semiconductors, and production was not being developed at a large scale. It was not being able to meet the demand also. So you as an automotive expert, I mean, what is how your business strategies have changed in the last 2 years? If you can kindly share, any of your success stories so far.
Yeah. So I think we've seen maybe this year has been the first normal year, let's say, after the pandemic. We've seen, strong movement over the last year or so. Sales have reached close to what the pre-pandemic levels were. And we've seen this demand in both export markets as well as Indian markets, although there have been challenges. There have been challenges with respect to the semiconductor shortage, issues in, say, raw material availability or high cost of raw materials. So there have been challenges, but I think the last year has been, let's say, or like this year that's going to end soon, has been the first normal year after pandemic. But I think the pandemic did change quite a few things. One was obviously we used the time of the pandemic to do to look at cost rationalization, to actually invest at that time more in terms of new product portfolios. We also diversified into into new products, all around that same pandemic time, and this has also helped us withstand the downtrend at that time, because we were diversifying at the same time. We also worked on several strategies during that time. The whole what we call as a PACE strategy: personalization, autonomous, electrified, and connected. These were all strategies that were evolved during the time of the pandemic. We also, I think, in terms of the supply chain, looked at several changes that were done. I mean, the whole shortage of semiconductor has really made us plan, look at inventories, look at planning, look at how we structure our supply chain. All these, how much inventories do we carry? How do we support OEMs? All that has also gone through a change. We've also adopted digitization a lot more, right? So I think everything from how we conduct our meetings to how we look at, again, supply chain and manufacturing. The whole, I mean, I think the amount of digitization we have done in the last 3 years has been more than what we had done in the last 15 years. So I think also the way we do business and the way the whole digitization, how we review, internally, all our dashboards, all this has been evolved, around the time of the pandemic. Yeah, actually, that being the turning point, let's say. So we've, and all this has led to a tremendous amount of change and success. The amount of time, and I think this is true for every other company. Specifically for us, I think the success stories revolve around diversification into new products, be it electrification related products. That's been a big success story for us. We created a completely new vertical of two-wheeler and three-wheeler electrification exactly around the pandemic time, right? That's been a success story. Also in the electronics area, new products. So and the whole, we also went through a complete organization business transformation and OBT exercise. We restructured our domains. That's also been a huge success in terms of how we approach customers, how we interact with customers, using synergies across different plants. So we also did that during the time. I think that's been also a great success for us.
Now, speaking of technology, I mean, speaking of technology, particularly in terms, focusing on the automotive industry, what are the various technology trends you are now currently seeing in India and in other advanced countries? If you can kindly differentiate that in terms of adoption.
Yeah. So I think globally, the
Is
whole
India
world
still lag? Is still
Mhm.
India, I mean, waving still behind, like, Europe, US, and do you have to do a lot more to reach that peak? What is the difference?
Okay. So I think globally, the trends, if you really look at it, they're nearly the same, be it India or be it the globe. Globally in automotive, everybody talks about the case macro trends, right? So we talk about connected, we talk about autonomous, we talk about electrification and shared mobility. That's been the global trend. India is not very different. India is also adopting. Now, if you really look at the adoption, and if you look at where India stands or where India was standing and what has changed today, if I just give you an example, 7, 8 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, the electronic content per car used to be roughly $500. The global standard at that time was $1,500. So we were one third in terms of the electronic content. Today, if you see, the globe has moved to maybe $3,000 of electronic content, but India has actually caught up quite fast, right? The amount of technology adoption now, it's possibly 1,500 to $2,000 per car. So it's actually caught up very fast, and we see that in all the adoptions, of different technologies. If you look at how, for example, infotainment, 60% of all top selling cars today come with touchscreen infotainments. They come with connectivity. They come with premium features, ADAS and cameras and ultrasonic sensors. This is there in every car. So India has, I'm pretty sure the rate of adoption has exponentially increased in the last few years. There used to be a gap of, say, let's say 5 years between global technologies and what were adopted in India. I see that gap shrink quite a bit. Yeah. That is, I would say, India is possibly 3 years behind. In some cases, you see global models with exactly the same features being launched in India the same day that they are
Yes.
launched globally with exactly the same specification. So, that catching up has happened. What I think is still, there is still gap, but I know that there's a lot of focus again from the government around those topics. Is, say, for example, legislation and regulations, right? Global regulations, for example, call for certain features, be it airbags or be it safety ratings and others. But India is slightly behind in many of these regulations. Again, we've seen a lot of catch up happen in this areas also. And now we see, say, rating systems come to India. We've seen the mission of the government to reduce, say, 50% accidents by 2030. So all these are again impacting how there's more feature adoption, let's say, which is going to happen in India market. So we see, so in short, I think the whole case macro trends applies to India as much as it applies globally. Also, we're seeing adoption much faster. We see this gap reducing. There still remains a gap, but I think over the next 5 years, you would see more traction in this that you had not seen in the last maybe 10 to 15 years or 20 years even. So that's my belief.
Okay, sir. So when you speak about this thing in detail, okay, so the next question comes to my mind in terms of technologies only is that, in automotive industry, AI and IoT are getting a huge traction. Okay, but according to some past media reports, okay, I don't want to take any name, that they have clearly stated that, India has a long way to adopt that technology compared to many developed countries. Okay, so number one, as a technology expert, do you believe with that statement? Number two, which are the countries, do you think will lead the technology rat race, in terms in the automotive industry in the coming 5 years?
So if you look at things like AI and IoT, as you said, they're very, I mean, if I look at the macro trends I spoke to you about, right?
Hmm.
IoT is synonymous with the whole world of connected cars. That's basically, although IoT in the automotive sense just does not apply to connected cars, it also applies to the supply chain. It also applies to how automobiles or components are manufactured today. So you see a lot of IoT. Industry 4.0 is a classic example of IoT penetration in the way the automotive is manufactured today. But if we just stick to it's pure automotive use case, right? So we are talking of connected cars. And yes, the connected car adoption, let's say, has been much higher globally than what you see in India. Reasons are also related to, say, regulations, right? Europe, for example, has certain regulations in terms of emergency call. Every single car needs to have an emergency call assist. India does not have the regulation. When India does not have a regulation, automatically the adoption is slightly slower. However, this adoption has happened in, say, the shared mobility area. So every shared vehicle India now mandates to have, as per the AIS 140 regulation, a telematics unit. So you saw that adoption go from nearly 10% to 100% in just 2 years. So we do see that, again, as I said before, this gap is reducing. Now, when the emergency call assist regulation comes in, again, this connected car adoption is going to change to 100%. So a lot of this is driven by regulation. What is very heartening to see actually is that we also see this adoption increase even without regulation. Now, in most cars, if you look at what, say, Hyundai Kia is doing, or Suzuki is doing, or Mahindra or Tata are doing, now giving a connected car feature is becoming a norm. I know because we work with all of these OEMs very closely. There's more and more cars, more and more features that are getting adopted. So it's not going to be very behind. It might be behind today, but I can tell you again, as I said before, in the next 5 years, you're going to see this gap bridge very fast. India possibly, I think, is approximately 17% cars are connected today. And you're going to see this in upwards of 45-50% by 2026, 27. So that's a huge jump again. So again, as I said, watch out for the next 5 years, and all these gaps that we talk about are going to be very, very different. Now, yes, maybe the global market is adopting 5G at the time when we are adopting 4G. Maybe there are more use cases we talk about in the Western countries than you talk about India. It cannot be the same use case. The use cases are different. India is a different country. You cannot look at the same ADAS feature that is applied globally to be applied in India as the same way, right? But as long as we crack that part of the code, this gap
Yes.
is going to reduce.
Okay.
And
So
AI also, you spoke about AI. AI is also a matter of features and adoption, right?
yes.
The use cases that apply to India and what applies to the globe is very different. India is possibly going to use AI more effectively in areas like, say, battery analytics or range prediction, or maybe driver behavior monitoring in commercial vehicles. And maybe the globe is going to be more focused upon autonomous car and giving a full highway pilot related features. So there's going to be a difference. Now, that difference shouldn't be constituted as a big
Yeah.
gap or a growing gap. It's a narrowing gap.
Okay. So, sir, when you explain about the technology in details, when I went to your website and as per reports also, off late, you have created an advanced technology center, okay, like which is known as Create. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, so what is the benefit of this initiative, and how do you think it will be a game changer in the automotive industry?
Yeah. So Create was started in 2017. It's been just over 5 years now. And it was around the same time that we released a new vision. Our new vision that I just spoke to you about in your first question was also around the same time in 2017. And the whole idea at that time was that, okay, we've made this vision about technology leadership. How do we realize it? And I had just joined the group also at that time, and we saw that a lot of technology within the group, or the technology teams within the group, were slightly fragmented. They were spread in different businesses. They were a mixture of maybe a little bit of R&D and more applications engineering. And hence we took a call as a group in 2017 to actually focus and create this single center that would bring as its focus self-reliance and technology leadership. So it started in 2017. We started with 5 people back then, and like today we are over 350 people. We started with one small center in Pune. We've now 4 centers in India, one center in Germany, and we have gone into several new product groups. Now, Create as the mission of Create is very simple. One is to realize the vision of the group. of the group. And number two is to basically what we call in in our mission is to innovate for the future of mobility. And when we speak about innovating for the future of of mobility, we speak about these four macro trends. We speak about personalization, where we are tracking car as a third living space, because car is going to evolve as a third living space. Now, number two is autonomous and ADAS. Number three is connected, and fourth is electrified. So same macro trends, we have tweaked it a little bit. We focus more on personalization because our products are such, and the other A, C, and E, are pretty much the same. Now, how is it? And basically, from a product strategy perspective, we believe in strengthening the core and expanding into the new areas, as into new areas of products. So the whole idea of Create is to develop, innovate, develop, and design products that Minda does not make today. Yeah. So that is the whole focus area. Now, we also strengthen the core. When we speak about strengthening the core, we speak about making our current products smarter, making more electronic content going into them, enabling moving from a component supplier to a system supplier, because we make so many different products, we could create systems out of it. So these are the three areas. One, get into new product areas, which are focused on the pay strategy. Number two, as a part of strengthening the core, is to make our products smarter, more electronic content. And number three is move from a component supplier to a system supplier. So these are the three areas of focus that Create works in. What are the benefits? I think benefits, number one, since we centralized all these centers, we are able to maybe have more talent, more speciality, more centers of competency that can work in the whole group. There's knowledge between the groups that we were able to centralize. Number two is deeper focus. Yeah, now that we are centralized as one single unit, we are able to focus on the strategy more crisply. We are able to invest more into this. We also are promoting more of a culture of innovation, right? We recently filed our 750th intellectual property. Just this year, we have filed nearly 97 IPs. We had a target of one IP a week, and we kind of crossed it, and we are nearly doubling it. So the whole idea is to innovate more and more. We were recently awarded, being one of the top 50 innovative companies in India. So the whole idea of Create is to innovate and create new product groups, focused on India, focused on design to cost, focused on adding value, to the Indian OEMs, work collaboratively with them. So these are the main focus area. As a part of Create, though, I would also like to mention that we also have a design studio called Initia. And the design studio focuses on all aspects of creative design. So this is design research, user experience, 3D modeling, we UI UX or HMI design. We do full vehicle design, interior design, exterior design. So we do all of this as a part of our design studio. It also helps us innovate and actually bring out new new products.
So now speaking of your solutions, how many how many clients you are currently offering your solutions, and what are the upcoming promising technologies, some of which you can think will uplift the growth of the industry in the coming few years, or rather boost the growth of the industry, automotive industry, in the coming few years?
So I think one of the key advantages that was on our side when we started off Create was that we were a group that was already had a very large base of customers. We more or less treat Create like a startup. because we
Yeah.
started from scratch. We developed products, we innovated. So we more or less treat this like a, like a startup. But what was on our side was there was this whole credibility of the group, that they had a very long standing relationship with nearly every OEM that's there in India and the globe. Now, we don't differentiate when we speak about Create, that which customers do we work with and what we don't work with. I can tell you, out of Create, we have worked with over 50 to 60 different customers in the last just 2 3 years. Totally, I don't know the number, but it could be nearly everybody that the group does work with. I'm sure the number is over 50. And as a part of this, there's been several success stories. um, for example, we got into new product segments like wireless charger. This was a completely new product that we started off. We created the whole EV vertical from scratch. We knew that EV adoption is happening. We worked on solutions that were exactly tailor made for India. We got into the entire two-wheeler and three-wheeler low voltage electrification. We got into connectivity. Again, looking at from a safety aspect, the whole AIS 140 was a very, it started off as a woman safety initiative of the government. And we were part of that. We were very deeply in the AIS 140 telematics game. And I mean, I can name, we have got more than 20 30 products that we have evolved over the last 4 to 5 years. And I think number one was in the personalization space, ambient lighting, wireless chargers, cameras. We are now localizing our own cameras. We've set up a complete automotive camera manufacturing in India. We are working on complete, as I said, electrification. We were the first to build a fully compliant ITS system, which is used in buses. On the lighting side, we worked on innovative solutions, like auto bending lamps and electronic horns. We focused on lightweighting, new materials. So there's a lot to speak about. I can take possibly another 3 4 hours just talking about new innovation and products that we worked on. Would be happy to give you a tour sometime in Pune if you would like.
Yeah. So my final question to you is, what is your roadmap, okay, in the coming 5 years, and how, Minda is, poised to uplift the growth of the industry in the coming years?
So as far as India is concerned, see, we basically track three specific verticals, or three specific, let's say, areas. Number one is this whole government initiative around bringing the NCAP regulations to India. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the whole safety related NCAP rating system, the voluntary safety assessment program that is going to be brought to India, we see that as a game changer. We see that that's going to bring a lot more, a range of new products that are focused on safety, that are focused on reducing road accidents. There's focused on, in improve or increasing the electronic content and kind of harmonizing how the global automotive standards become applicable for India. So one is that the whole vehicle safety assessment program coming to India. Number two is legislation and regulations. As
Yes.
I said, there's a lot of catching up India is doing. We see the whole government target of reducing accidents by 50%, by 2030, is a great great change. This is also going to push many new technologies. The whole initiative of improving EV sales, but there have been different numbers, 100% by 2030 or 40% by 2030. You can pick any number. But I think what we see is definitely EV and green initiatives are going to be game changers. That's the second vertical that I see, at least from an India roadmap perspective. Third is the entire market sentiments changing. Yeah, we see the whole the millennials coming in. They're going to be the dominant buying pool going forward. Yeah, their focus on how they always want to be connected, be it in the car or outside the car, or their buying preferences are going to change. They're going to be looking at more premiumization, more comfort features, more personalization. So these are all again aspects of what the market sentiment is going to change. We're also going to see a lot more startups, a lot more new age OEMs. So all these are maybe again in the third vertical of market segment and sentiments. This is again a change. So I mentioned three. One is the vehicle rating system, the voluntary vehicle rating system. Number two is the vehicle regulations, and the third is the market sentiments. These are the three, let's say, the big roadmap items for India that is that are really going to be significant going forward. Now, how do we say address this, or how does Minda look at it, or how does Uno Minda cope up with it? Number one, I think, as I said, our key focus is to be innovative. We are focused on bringing more and more innovative solutions, focused on building Indian specific use case products, not just taking global products and seeing how they fit into India. We are different because we look at Indian use cases, we look at how they apply to India, what are the issues that India sees with respect to let's say road accidents or issues on the road in adoption of ADAS and other technologies, and how does that get addressed. So we look at India very, very focusedly. So that is one, innovation. Number two is we are focused on reducing lead time of new products to the market. Yeah. So we are looking at shorter time to market, improving our development processes. We know this technology change is going to happen faster. We can see it. So we are now trying to develop robust innovation processes, focused on sustainability, focused on more robust processes, and reducing lead time of development of products. What used to be a 4-year cycle, 3-year cycle to develop a product, OEMs now expect it in 6 months. Yeah, and we are gearing up for that challenge. Third is localization. We are very, very focused on Atmanirbhar Bharat. We are building products locally. We believe in the Indian growth story, and we believe in like designing products to cost and localization of the products, right? So this is again, I think, very, very critical, and this is where we believe that we would shine, because we are very focused in localization. So these are three areas that I believe that we are well established. We have a very good plan in addressing the roadmaps that Automotive India is looking at.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.